The morning light slipped through the glass roof of Crystal Mart, painting soft gold patterns on the clean marble floor. The air smelled of freshly baked bread and ripe oranges. A gentle hum of quiet conversations echoed through the aisles. Everything felt calm, almost perfect. Ethan Cole moved slowly down the main aisle, his cart nearly empty. He was tall, dressed sharply in a navy suit that spoke of wealth and control. Yet his eyes, calm but tired, carried a weight. People recognized him sometimes, but few dared to approach. He was the man whose name appeared on tall buildings and glossy magazines, a billionaire, a man used to control, to power, to precision. But today, he looked out of place. He had no assistant with him, no bodyguard following quietly, just him and the soft sound of cartwheels moving over marble. He reached for a loaf of bread, paused, and then replaced it. He wasn't even sure why he was here. Maybe he wanted to feel ordinary again, to buy something with his own hands. Across the aisle, a little girl watched him. Her name was Lila, 8 years old, with messy brown hair and bare feet that made soft prints on the cool floor. She held a small coin purse made of old cloth. She had come with her mother, who was outside selling flowers. Her mother had said, "Buy a little milk and bread, Lila, just the cheapest kind." Lila's eyes moved from the bread to the man. She didn't know who he was, but something about him looked lonely. She watched him choose a few things carefully, as if each item meant more than it should. The store was quiet except for the soft voice of a cashier calling, "Next, please." Ethan reached the counter, his mind still somewhere far away. The clerk greeted him politely, scanning his few items: a small bag of rice, 2 bottles of milk, and a bar of dark chocolate. It seemed strange for a man like him to buy so little. "Your total is $21.30, sir." He handed over his black metal credit card, the kind only the richest carried. The clerk slid it into the machine. The screen flashed red, declined. The sound was soft, but in the quiet morning it felt sharp. The clerk tried again, his smile faltering. "Sir, it seems there's a problem with your card." Ethan blinked, confused. He checked his wallet, then his phone. No signal, no cash, no backup card. For the first time in years, he stood uncertain, silent. The clerk shifted nervously. The people behind began to whisper, and from across the aisle, Lila's small eyes widened. She clutched her coin purse a little tighter, watching the man in the suit who suddenly looked so human. Something inside her stirred. The sound of the machine felt louder this time. The red word declined, blinked again. Stubborn, final. Ethan stared at the small screen, his calm face tightening for the first time. He had never experienced this before. Cards always worked. Payments always went through. Everything in his life usually moved smoothly, predictably. "Try again," he said quietly. His voice was calm, but the clerk noticed the edge beneath it. The clerk nodded and slid the card once more. The same message appeared. "I'm sorry, sir, it still isn't working." People behind began to shuffle, pretending not to stare. A woman whispered to her son. Another man took out his phone, pretending to check messages, but glancing up now and then. Ethan checked his phone again. No signal. He tried to call his assistant, but the call failed. A deep breath left his chest. For the first time in years, he felt something he couldn't quite name. Vulnerability. He looked at the clerk. "It's fine. I'll sort it out. Maybe the network is down." The clerk nodded quickly, trying to stay polite. "Of course, sir. These things happen." But the words carried quiet disbelief. Ethan stepped aside, letting the next customer move forward. The cart stayed there, filled with unpaid groceries. He stood still, unsure what to do next. The idea of leaving without paying felt strange, even wrong. Across the aisle, Lila watched every movement. Her small fingers rubbed the edge of her cloth coin purse. She could hear the whispers too. "That's Ethan Cole," someone murmured. "The billionaire, the one with all those hotels." "Maybe it's fake," another whispered. "You never know with rich people." Ethan turned his face slightly away, pretending not to hear. The clerk called the manager quietly. A tall woman in a neat blazer approached, her heels tapping softly on the marble floor. "Mr. Cole," she said politely, "we can hold your items until your card issue clears." Ethan nodded. "Thank you, I'll fix this." But even as he spoke, he felt the absurdity of it. Fix this? He didn't even know what had gone wrong. He looked down at the cart again. The items seemed ordinary, but they felt heavier now. It wasn't about money. It was about control slipping through his fingers. And then he noticed her, Lila, the small barefoot girl, standing near the end of the counter. Her eyes were wide, curious, innocent. She held her coin purse with both hands. Their eyes met for a brief second. She didn't look away. She didn't look scared, just thoughtful, as if she were deciding something big. Ethan gave a small, polite smile, thinking she was only staring at his suit. But Lila took a tiny step forward, then stopped. The manager began to move the cart aside, but Lila's voice cut through the quiet air, soft but clear. "Sir," she said, "you forgot to pay." The clerk froze. Ethan turned to her slowly. He smiled faintly. "I didn't forget. My card just didn't work." Lila blinked, still clutching her purse. "I can help," she whispered. No one moved. The entire checkout lane fell silent. Ethan stared at her, confused. Then he almost laughed. "Help? That's kind, but it's all right. I'll come back." But Lila shook her head, her eyes steady. "You need it now. You looked sad." Her voice was small, but it carried through the air like a soft note of truth. The sound of coins clinking broke the stillness. Lila opened her small purse and poured the contents onto her palm. 3 silver coins and 1 small note. It couldn't have been more than a few dollars. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face stayed calm. "You can take it," she said softly, "so you can buy your milk and bread." The words landed gently but deeply. Ethan didn't move at first. He just looked at her small hands, then back at her face. The manager blinked, unsure how to respond. The clerk's mouth opened, then closed again. Ethan finally spoke, his voice quieter than before. "You don't have to do that. I can come back later." Lila shook her head, serious now. "My mama says when someone needs help, and you can help, you must." Her words carried no weight of pride or fear, just kindness, honest and clear. Ethan crouched down slowly, so his eyes met hers. He had faced investors, ministers, and world leaders. None had made him feel as small as this little girl did in that moment. He smiled faintly. "What's your name?" "Lila, Lila," he repeated, like the sound of it calmed him. "And where's your mama?" "She's outside," Lila said. "She sells flowers. She told me to buy bread. I have a little extra. You can use it." Her fingers pushed the coins toward him again. The small gesture looked fragile, yet stronger than anything he had seen in years. The people around grew quiet, watching. A few had phones raised but lowered them, ashamed to record such purity. Ethan looked at the coins again. He could buy 1,000 stores like this one. Yet at this moment, he had nothing that mattered more than this little girl's offer. Something shifted inside him. He reached out and gently closed her hand around the coins. "Keep it, Lila," he said. "You've already helped me." She tilted her head, puzzled. "But you didn't buy your food." Ethan smiled. "That's all right. You reminded me what it means to care. That's worth more than this." Lila's lips curved into a small, shy smile. The manager stepped closer, her tone softer now. "Mr. Cole, if you'd like, the items are on the house." He turned to her. "No, thank you, but that's not necessary." He looked back at Lila. She already paid for them, in kindness. The crowd fell silent again. The tension in the air dissolved, replaced by something warm and human. Ethan stood up slowly, looking around the store with new eyes. The marble floor didn't seem as grand. The shelves didn't look as full. But that moment, simple and quiet, felt richer than all his wealth combined. He reached into his pocket, found a small silver keychain, a keepsake from his late wife. He handed it to Lila. "This is for you, to remember that your kindness matters." Lila looked at it carefully, smiling bright now. "Thank you." Their worlds were different, yet in that moment, they shared something that erased the distance between them. Ethan sat by the cafe window, the soft clink of coffee cups and distant music filling the space around him. Outside, the morning had stretched into noon, and light shimmered gently on the glass. He had left the checkout counter without his groceries, but something far heavier followed him. The image of Lila's small hands offering her coins refused to leave his mind. He stirred his coffee slowly, though he had already added sugar twice. The taste didn't matter. He wasn't sure what he was feeling. He had built empires from steel and glass. He had bought islands, companies, and politicians. Yet, in that quiet grocery mall, a barefoot girl had done something he could never have done, give, without fear of losing. He looked out the window again. Across the parking lot, near the entrance, a small flower stall stood by the wall. Buckets of roses and lilies surrounded a woman in a faded scarf. Lila stood beside her, laughing softly as she arranged flowers into tiny bundles. Her laughter carried even through the glass. pure, free. Ethan watched them for a long moment. He didn't know when his coffee had gone cold. His assistant had texted 10 times, trying to fix the technical issue. His card problem was already solved. His phone was back online, but none of that mattered now. He rose from his seat, leaving a bill under the cup, though the coffee was untouched. He walked toward the glass doors, his steps slower than before. The air outside was warmer. Lila saw him first. She waved, her smile bright. "Hello again." Her mother looked up, surprised but polite. "Good afternoon, sir. Would you like to buy some flowers?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, all of them." The woman blinked. "All?" He smiled faintly. "Every single one." Lila's eyes widened. "That's a lot of flowers." Ethan crouched again, just like earlier. "Then maybe you can help me choose which one goes first." She giggled and handed him a small bunch of white lilies. "These are good. Mama says they mean peace." He nodded, accepting them. "Peace sounds right." The mother began wrapping the rest of the flowers, still unsure why this man wanted them all. Ethan took out his card, the same black one that had failed earlier. This time it worked instantly. He didn't say much, just paid quietly, and watched Lila's joy as she counted the flowers going into a box. "Do you have school, Lila?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not now. Mama says maybe next year, if we have enough money." He looked at her for a long time, the smile fading from his lips. Then he nodded slowly. "Maybe next year will come sooner." Her mother glanced at him, curious but silent. As he walked away carrying the flowers, something changed in his step. The air felt lighter, his thoughts clearer. For the first time in years, he didn't think about business meetings, deadlines, or investments. He thought only of a little girl with bare feet and brave kindness, and somewhere deep inside, something old and cold began to melt. Back in his office. The city stretched beneath him like a sea of light. Cars moved slowly, their headlights glowing like scattered stars. The walls around him were lined with awards and photos of powerful people shaking his hand. Yet his eyes kept returning to the small white lily on his desk. The flower looked out of place among the polished surfaces and steel but it carried something his entire fortune had never bought: peace. He sat down slowly, opened his laptop, and began to type. The subject line read, "Scholarship Fund Proposal." He stared at it for a long moment before adding a subtitle for children who can't afford to dream. Words flowed icily this time. He didn't think about public image or business advantage. He thought about Lila's worn dress, her coin purse, her voice saying, "You looked sad." He smiled faintly, remembering how that small truth had pierced through all his walls. He typed carefully, describing a plan to build small learning centers near low-income neighborhoods. Free education, free meals, simple and safe. When he finished, he sent the email to his foundation director. Then he leaned back, closing his eyes. Outside, the sky deepened into a soft blue. The lights of his city blinked awake, one by one. He had never noticed how alive they looked before. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his assistant. "All systems fixed, sir. It was a temporary freeze on your accounts. Everything's functional again." He looked at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, "Thank you. Don't fix everything next time." The assistant wouldn't understand, but Ethan did. Some problems were meant to happen. Some mistakes were needed to see truth. He turned to the small photo frame on his desk. Inside was a picture the mall manager had sent earlier, candid photo of him and Lila by the flower stall. Lila was smiling, holding her coin purse, and he was crouched beside her, holding lilies. He looked at the photo for a while, then whispered, "You helped me remember." He opened another document on his screen. At the top, he typed, "Lila Foundation." The cursor blinked below it. Waiting, he began writing the mission statement himself, line by line, not delegating it to anyone. The sound of keys filled the quiet room. Each word carried more meaning than any deal he had ever signed. Hours passed, but he didn't notice. When he finally stopped, he stood by the window again. The city glowed below, but his eyes didn't chase its shine. He thought about a small grocery mall, a red declined message, and a child's courage. That moment had broken his pride, then rebuilt him in silence. He lifted the lily once more, touching the soft white petals. "You didn't just buy me bread, Lila," he said softly. "You gave me reason again." And somewhere in the city, beneath the night's quiet sky, a mother tucked her little girl into bed. Lila smiled in her sleep, clutching the silver keychain he had given her. 2 weeks passed before Ethan returned to The place looked the same, but for him, everything felt different now. He stepped out of his car quietly. the sound of traffic fading behind him. He wore no suit today, just a soft grey sweater and dark jeans. He carried a small bouquet of lilies in one hand and a white envelope in the other. Across the parking area, Lila's flower stall stood in its usual place, colourful and alive. She was stacking small bunches of flowers while her mother arranged a new display. When she saw him, her face lit up like morning. "You came back," she called out. Ethan smiled, walking closer. "I did. I had to see how my favorite flower seller was doing." Lila giggled. "We sold more flowers this week. People say they saw me on the mall's page. They posted a picture." Her mother nodded, smiling with shy pride. "Someone from the mall took a photo of them that day. People liked it. Business has been good since then." Ethan chuckled softly. "I'm glad to hear that." He handed Lila the bouquet. "These are for you. Lilies, just like before." Lila took them carefully, her small hands almost disappearing behind the petals. "They smell nice." "Are they for Mama?" He shook his head. "No, they're for you, to remind you that kindness grows wherever it's planted." She smiled brightly. "Mama says you're a nice man." Ethan's expression softened. "Your mama is very wise." He handed her the white envelope. "This is also for you." Lila looked curious. "What is it?" "An invitation," he said. "Inside is your name, Lila, and an address to a new place that will open soon. A learning center. It's called the Lila Foundation School." She blinked, not understanding fully. Her mother took the envelope, reading quietly. As her eyes moved across the page, tears began to form. "Sir," she whispered, "this says it's free education. 4 children from low-income families." Ethan nodded. "Yes, Lila helped me see something important. She reminded me that help can start small, but it can change everything." The mother pressed her hand to her mouth, trying to speak. Lila tilted her head, smiling softly. "You made a school." He nodded again. "I did, but you gave it the reason to exist." The little girl grinned, holding her flowers close. "Can I come learn there?" "You're the first student," he said warmly, "and your mother will get help too. The school has a program for parents." For a moment, no one spoke. The air was filled with quiet emotion, the scent of flowers mixed with the warm breeze. Lila suddenly stepped forward and hugged him, her small arms wrapped tightly around his waist. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan smiled, placing his hand gently on her back. "No, Lila, thank you." The mother wiped her eyes, whispering, "God bless you, sir." As he walked back to his car, Ethan turned once more to look at them. The stall looked brighter somehow, as if kindness had given it its own light. He smiled and whispered to himself, "She gave me everything money couldn't." Months passed. The day had come. The sun shone bright over the new building, its white walls gleaming softly in the light. The sign above the gate read Lila Foundation School. Children ran through the courtyard, their laughter filling the warm morning air. Some carried small books, others chased each other, their joy echoing across the open space. Ethan stood near the gate, hands in his pockets, watching quietly. He wore a simple blue shirt, no suit, no tie. For once, he didn't want cameras or reporters. He didn't want applause. He just wanted to see what kindness had built. The air smelled of fresh paint and flowers. Rows of potted lilies lined the pathway, their white petals swaying gently in the breeze. They had planted them on purpose, in memory of a small act that had started everything. Ethan looked at the building with calm pride. He had built towers, hotels, and offices across the world, but this was different. This one felt alive. This one meant something real. A small voice called behind him. "Mr. Ethan." He turned and saw Lila running up the path, wearing a new school uniform, clean white and bright against her tanned skin. Her brown hair was tied neatly, and she carried a small backpack almost bigger than her. Behind her walked her mother, smiling quietly. Ethan knelt as Lila reached him, her laughter light and free. "You came," she said breathlessly. "You promised you would." Ethan smiled, nodding. "Of course I did. I couldn't miss your first day." Lila's eyes sparkled. "I have my books, and my teacher said I can read a whole page already." "That's wonderful," Ethan said softly. "I knew you would do well." She looked around at the flowers, her smile widening. "You planted lilies, just like mine." "Yes," he said, "because they remind me of peace, the kind you gave me that day." Lila tilted her head, her voice quiet. "The day your card didn't work." Ethan laughed softly. "Yes, that day, the day I learned something more important than money." Lila nodded. though she didn't fully understand. Her innocence made his chest tighten slightly. He looked up at the school again, the sound of children's laughter rising in the air. Her mother joined them, her voice calm but full of gratitude. "Sir, we can never thank you enough for this. You gave my child a chance she could never have had." Ethan shook his head gently. "No, she gave me the chance to be better." The mother smiled, eyes soft with tears. "You changed our lives." Ethan looked at Lila, then at the school. "She changed mine first." The wind brushed softly through the lilies, their petals moving like a silent applause. Lila took his hand suddenly, small and warm. "Come see my classroom," she said eagerly. He smiled. "Lead the way." She pulled him toward the building. Inside, the walls were painted with drawings children had made, flowers, suns, and words like hope and dream. The desks were small, the windows wide, letting sunlight pour in. Lila showed him her seat, near the window. "This is where I sit, and I can see the flowers from here." He looked out and saw the white lilies glowing under the sun. "That's a good place," he said softly. "You'll learn many things there." Lila looked up at him with her honest eyes. "Will you come back?" He smiled. "Yes, every time I need to remember why I started this." She giggled and nodded, satisfied. Ethan stepped back toward the doorway, watching her join the other children. They laughed together, their voices full of life. He stood for a while, listening. He thought of that morning in the grocery mall, the red declined message, the whispers, and the little girl with a coin purse. That one moment had changed everything. He took a deep breath, feeling peace settle in his chest. As he walked out, he turned one last time. Lila waved from her desk, her smile bright as sunlight. He lifted his hand in return, his heart full. Outside, the wind carried the scent of lilies across the courtyard. The flowers moved softly, as if whispering a quiet truth. Kindness grows where it is planted. And that day, in the laughter of children and the warmth of the sun, Ethan knew his life had finally found its purpose.